Let's discuss about the functions of the tubule. Now, first part is the proximal convoluted tubule, that is also called as PCT. Now, PCT is lined by the simple cuboidal brush border epithelium, which increases the surface area for reabsorption. All the essential nutrients and 70 to 80% of the electrolytes and water, they are reabsorbed by this segment. Okay. Now PCT, it also helps to maintain the pH and ionic balance of the body fluids by selective secretion of hydrogen ions and ammonia, potassium ions into the filtrate, and by absorption of bicarbonate ions from it. Henle's loop. Now when we talk of the loop of Henle, reabsorption is minimum in its ascending limb. Now see here, this is ascending limb and this is descending limb. Descending, which is going downwards, ascending, which is going upwards. So reabsorption is minimum in its ascending limb, but this region plays a significant role in the maintenance of high osmolarity of medullary interstitial fluid. The descending limb of the loop of Henle, it is permeable to water but almost impermeable to electrolytes. So this concentrates the filtrate as it moves down, and the ascending limb is impermeable to water but allows transport of electrolytes actively or passively. Therefore, as the concentrated filtrate passes upwards, it gets diluted due to the passage of electrolytes to the medullary fluid. Then we come to distal convoluted tubule. Now conditional reabsorption of sodium ions and water takes place in this segment. Distal convoluted tubule is also capable of reabsorption of bicarbonate ions. Now in this part, reabsorption of the bicarbonate ions and selective secretion of hydrogen, potassium ions and ammonia to maintain the pH and the sodium potassium balance in the blood. Now next part is the collecting duct this part. Now the long duct extends from the cortex of the kidney to the inner parts of the medulla, and the large amounts of water could be reabsorbed from this region to produce concentrated urine, and this segment allows passage of small amounts of urea into the medullary interstitium to keep up the osmolarity. So it also plays a role in the maintenance of pH and ionic balance of the body by selective secretion of hydrogen and potassium ions through this region. Now mechanism of concentration of the filtrate. Now mammals, they have the ability to produce a concentrated urine, and the Henle's loop and vasa recta. Okay, this is vasa recta. That plays a significant role in this. The flow of filtrate in the two limbs of the Henle's loop is in the opposite direction and thus forms a counter current mechanism, and the flow of blood through the two limbs of vasa recta is also in the counter current pattern. So this is vasa recta, this part, okay. And this is from the loop of Henle. Now, so the proximity between the Henle's loop and the vasa recta as well as the counter current in them helps in maintaining the increasing osmolarity towards the inner medullary interstitium, that is about 300 milliosmosols per liter in the cortex to about 1200 milliosmosols per liter in the inner medulla. So this gradient is mainly caused by sodium chloride and urea. Sodium chloride is transported by the ascending limb of the loop of Henle, you can see here, which is exchanged with the descending limb of vasa recta, and small amounts of urea enters the thin segment of the ascending limb of loop of Henle, which is transported back to the interstitium by the collecting duct here. Now small amounts of urea which enters the thin segment of the ascending limb of the loop of Henle and again transported back to the interstitium by the collecting duct tubule. So this whole transport of substances facilitate the special arrangement of the loop of Henle and vasa recta, and this is called as counter current mechanism. This mechanism helps to maintain a concentration gradient in the medullary interstitium, and the presence of such interstitial gradient, it helps in the easy passage of water from the collecting duct. Water moves from high to low concentration, so thereby concentrating the filtrate or the urine. So human kidneys can produce urine nearly 4 times concentrated than the initial filtrate which is formed here. Regulation of kidney functions. Now the functioning of the kidneys is efficiently monitored and regulated by hormonal feedback mechanisms, which involves the hypothalamus, then juxtaglomerular apparatus, and to a certain level the heart. So osmoreceptors are what? Specialized cells which which can detect the osmolarity in the body. So osmoreceptors in the body, they get activated by the changes in the blood volume. So the body fluids, so body fluid volume and ionic concentration, all these. So the excess loss of fluid from the body, that can activate these receptors, and this stimulates the hypothalamus to release antidiuretic hormone, ADH, which is also known as vasopressin, from the neurohypophysis. Then ADH, what does it do? It facilitates water reabsorption from the later part of the tubule, and it prevents diuresis. So increase in the body volume, that can switch off the osmoreceptors and suppress the ADH release to complete the feedback. So ADH, it can also affect the kidney functions by its constrictory effects on blood vessels. This causes an increase in the blood pressure. Here you can see through this flow chart it is explained. Now this causes an increase in the blood pressure, and increase in the blood pressure can increases the glomerular blood flow and thus the glomerular filtration rate. Now, juxtaglomerular apparatus, it plays a complex regulatory role. A fall in the glomerular blood flow, or the glomerular blood pressure, or which is also called as glomerular filtration rate, it can activate the juxtaglomerular cells to release renin. Now, renin, again, it's a hormone which converts. Now, renin converts angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1 and further to angiotensin 2 and angiotensin 2. It's a powerful vasoconstrictor. Vasoconstrictor means it constricts the vessels. So it's a vasoconstrictor, and it increases the glomerular blood pressure and thereby increasing the glomerular filtration rate. And angiotensin 2 also activates the adrenal cortex to release aldosterone. Which causes the reabsorption of the sodium ions and water from the distal parts of the tubule, and this also leads to increase in the blood pressure and the glomerular filtration rate. So this complex mechanism is generally known as renin-angiotensinogen mechanism. Now, increase in the blood flow in the atria of the heart can cause the release of natriuretic factor, which can cause vasodilation or dilation of the blood vessels and thereby decrease the blood pressure. So anti-natriuretic factor mechanism, it also acts as a check on the renin-angiotensinogen mechanism. Micturition. Now, urine formed by the nephrons is ultimately carried to the urinary bladder, where it is stored till a voluntary signal is given by the central nervous system. Now, this signal is initiated by the stretching of the urinary bladder, and it gets filled with the urine, and the stretch receptors on the wall of the bladder send signals to the central nervous system, which passes on a motor message to initiate the contraction of the smooth muscles of the bladder and simultaneous relaxation of the urethral sphincter, causing the release of the urine. So the process of release of urine is called as micturition, and the neural mechanism causing it is called as micturition reflex. So an adult human excretes on an average 1 to 1.5 liters of urine per day, and the urine formed is a light yellow colored watery fluid which is highly acidic, pH is 6, and has a particular order, characteristic order. And on an average 25 to 30 grams of urea is excreted out per day. So various conditions, they can affect the characteristics of urine. Analysis of urine samples helps in clinical diagnosis of many metabolic disorders as well as malfunctioning of the kidneys. For example, presence of glucose, that is glycosuria, and the presence of ketone bodies, that is ketonuria in the urine, that indicates diabetes mellitus. Now, role of the other organs in the excretion, other than the kidneys, lungs and skin also helps in elimination of excretory waste. Our lungs remove large amounts of carbon dioxide, approximately 200 milliliters per minute, and also significant quantities of water every day. Liver, the largest gland in our body, secretes bile containing substances like bilirubin, biliverdin, cholesterol, degraded steroid hormones, vitamins and drugs, and most of these substances ultimately pass out along with the digestive waste. So the sweat and the sebaceous glands in the skin, they can also eliminate certain substances through their secretions. Sweat produced by the sweat glands is a watery fluid containing NaCl and small amounts of urea, lactic acid. And though the primary function of sweat is to facilitate a cooling effect on the body surface, it also helps in the removal of some of the waste which we have just discussed. Now, sebaceous glands eliminate certain substances like sterols, hydrocarbons, waxes through the sebum in the skin. And this secretion provides a protection to the oily covering of the skin. And small amounts of nitrogenous waste could also be eliminated through the saliva also. So let's discuss the last topic of the chapter, that is disorders of the excretory system. Now, malfunctioning of the kidneys, it leads to accumulation of urea in the blood, and this condition is called as uremia, which is highly harmful and may lead to kidney failure. Now, in such patients, urea can be removed by the process which is called as hemodialysis. During the process of hemodialysis, the blood drained from a convenient artery is pumped into the dialysing unit which is called as artificial kidney, and the blood drained from an artery is pumped into a dialyzing unit after adding an anticoagulant which is called as like heparin. And the unit contains a coiled cellophane tube which is surrounded by a fluid which is called as a dialysing fluid, having the same composition as that of the plasma except the nitrogenous waste. So the porous cellophane membranes of the tube allows the passage of the molecules based on concentration gradient, and these substances, they freely move out and clear the blood. So the cleared blood is pumped back to the body through a vein after adding antiheparin to it. And this method is a boon for thousands of uremic patients all over the world. Kidney transplantation is the ultimate method in the correction of the acute renal failures like kidney failures. And functioning of the kidney is used in transplantation from a donor, preferably a close relative, to minimize its chances of rejection by the immune system of the host. So modern clinical procedures, they have increased the success rate of such a complicated technique. Renal calculi. It's a stone or insoluble mass of crystallized salts, of oxalates especially, which are formed within the kidneys. Then is glomerulonephritis. It is the inflammation of the glomeruli of the kidneys.